Ho was the clown that buried 33 boys. There are horrors that wear masks, and then there are horrors that wear friendly smiles. Few figures in American crime history have shattered the illusion of suburban safety quite like John Wayne Gacy, a man whose dual life as a community pillar and a vicious serial killer has forever etched the figure of the clown into the darkest corners of popular culture, inspiring films from It to Clown House. This is the chilling story of how a seemingly normal contractor became one of the nation's most prolific murderers. Part 1. The warning signs ignored. The nightmare began with dozens of missing teenagers, young lives vanishing into the Chicago night, only to reappear later in the collective psyche as silent victims of unimaginable torture and murder. These were the whispers of a monstrous secret, a shadow cast by a killer known only as the Clown. The clock started ticking tragically in 1975 with the disappearance of Johnny Bukovick. After a mundane argument with his boss, Johnny vanished. His car was found, keys still in the ignition, a small, perplexing detail suggesting a hasty exit or maybe a prank. Yet his wallet, full of cash, and his checkbook were all left behind, painting a picture of an abrupt, unwilling departure. Johnny's desperate father repeatedly called the police, but each plea sank into the deafening silence of a jurisdiction either overwhelmed or simply unwilling to believe the worst. This was the first alarm, tragically muted. 3 years later, the silence was violently broken. Jeffrey Rignall, battered and physically traumatized, emerged from his personal hell. He reported to the police a terrifying ordeal of abduction and torture. Crucially, Rignall remembered one vital detail. The kidnapper's vehicle was a black Oldsmobile. But the most astounding act of courage followed. Driven by a fierce survival instinct, Rignall conducted his own investigation. He tracked down the location of his torment, a seemingly normal suburban home belonging to a man named John Wayne Gacy. Rignall brought the evidence to the police, and Gacy was charged with assault. This was the pivotal moment, the moment the system failed. Gacy was arrested but was quickly released on bail pending trial. During this critical window, his darkness went unchecked. He became an unhindered predator, continuing his brutal spree, demonstrating a profound arrogance that stemmed from the perceived impotence of law enforcement. This was not merely an error of the judicial system. It was a devastating ethical lapse that directly contributed to the murders of additional innocent victims. Part 2. Pogo the Clown and the Unmasking. John Wayne Gacy was not just a serial killer. He was the embodiment of psychotic duality. He was known as Pogo the Clown, or Patches the Clown, an active performer at children's parties, charity events, and local parades. His grotesque makeup and infectious cheer hid a soul of utter depravity. The image of the friendly entertainer, a figure meant to invoke laughter, concealing a soul capable of such profound evil, remains one of the most chilling ironies of his criminal legacy. The system's gaze finally focused on Gacy after yet another disappearance was linked directly to him. This time, the police could not look away. The investigation led them back to Gacy's residence, the same house Jeffrey Rignall had barely escaped from. What the police found there transcended their worst nightmares. The search led to a secret, shallow crawlspace beneath his ordinary suburban home, a veritable terrestrial hell hidden beneath floorboards and concrete. The discovery was horrifying, a maze of death where 24 bodies, the skeletal remains of the missing young men, lay stacked and decomposing in the cold, damp earth. The stench of decomposition, the suffocating atmosphere, and the sheer volume of human remains were a visual testament to Gacy's relentless barbarity. Each shovel of dirt was an indictment, each recovered skeleton a tragic narrative of a life stolen. Gacy was ultimately charged and sentenced to death. But his execution could never truly compensate for the profound grief and the systematic failure he exposed. Part 3. The Price of Normalcy and Societal Failure. The true cost of John Wayne Gacy's rampage extends far beyond the final body count. It lies in the enduring, agonizing doubt that consumed the victims' families for years. For Johnny Bukovick's father and countless others, calls to the police were desperate pleas for recognition that their sons hadn't simply run away. The collective failure lay in society's capitulation to Gacy's manufactured normalcy. He was a successful contractor, a local political organizer, and a beloved clown. His public facade was too perfect, too conforming, preventing anyone from looking beneath the surface that Jeffrey Rignall so bravely tried to expose. The greatest tragedy is that Gacy was enabled to continue his killings. His release on bail after the Rignall assault is an indelible stain on the justice system. Every victim murdered after that decision is a direct indictment of those who dismissed the clear eyewitness warning brought by Rignall, a survivor who brought the evidence right to their door. We must acknowledge with deep regret that systemic hesitancy and skepticism transformed a single assault into a relentless, serial massacre. When the horrific images of the crawl space, of human remains layered beneath a seemingly innocuous suburban home were released, they were more than just criminal evidence. They were a visceral portrait of societal oversight. The cold concrete walls and shallow dirt beneath a normal ranch house concealed unimaginable atrocities. This serves as the eternal warning. Genuine evil rarely announces itself with a roar. Sometimes it smiles, shakes your hand, and might just be preparing a horrifying trick for the next birthday party. Gacy's legacy is not just the bodies, it is the utter destruction of faith in appearances. Beyond the chilling psychological terrain of Gacy's crimes, the sheer scale of his underground tomb presented an unprecedented challenge to forensic science and record-keeping. The recovery process itself was a gruesome, meticulously slow excavation that spanned weeks, forcing investigators to work in tight, contaminated conditions, retrieving bodies that were often severely decomposed and intertwined. Identifying the victims became a nightmare. Many were runaway or marginalized youth, meaning their dental and medical records were incomplete or non-existent. The remains had to be painstakingly separated, cataloged, and identified primarily through dental records, and eventually through rudimentary DNA techniques, which were nascent at the time. The difficulty in naming all the victims immediately compounded the family's suffering. Some parents were left in a horrifying limbo for years, not knowing if the remains belonged to their missing sons. This logistical and ethical crisis profoundly impacted future forensic and administrative protocols. The Gacy case served as a brutal wake-up call, forcing police departments nationwide to standardize and improve the logging and identification process for missing persons and unidentified. The chilling discovery that Gacy was able to dispose of so many bodies on his own property without raising suspicion led to stricter regulations regarding construction and inspections of residential properties, forever altering building code enforcement in the region. The legacy of Gacy's crawl space is a constant, spectral presence in American law enforcement, a grim reminder that beneath the facade of the ordinary, the systematic search for truth must never cease. Conclusion: the enduring shadow of the clown. The execution of John Wayne Gacy brought a final, necessary judicial closure, yet it did not and could not erase the enduring scar he left on the American psyche. His story is more than a true crime statistic. It is a foundational horror narrative that profoundly shaped our understanding of evil. The legacy of Gacy's crimes is the realization that the greatest monsters do not reside in fairy tales or the wilderness, but thrive in plain sight, leveraging the community's trust and complacency. The ultimate warning from the Gacy case is twofold. Firstly, it mandates that institutions must listen to the vulnerable, the Jeffrey Rignalls who escaped the darkness, and treat every cry for help, regardless of the victim's social standing, with unwavering seriousness. Secondly, it is a perpetual admonition to society to pierce the veil of the mundane. The crawlspace beneath Gacy's house serves as a chilling, tangible metaphor for the hidden depravity that can lurk just beneath the polished surface of respectable life. His victims, tragically silenced in that cold earth, continue to speak through the necessary reforms they inspired, urging us to remain eternally vigilant against the terrifying possibility of the smiling face that hides a monstrous soul.